I forgot about them until about 1 a.m.
So and then I went, still wet?
Oh, shit.
So you gotta go put them in the dryer.
I threw them in the dryer, and I sat down on the couch.
And fell asleep.
And I fell asleep on the couch.
Oh, predictable.
And then like 3 a.m., I'm like, oh shit, my sheets are in the dryer because I woke up because all the lights were on. And then I ended up just grabbing the blankets that were on the couch and bringing them upstairs and sleeping with those instead. I was like, there's no way I'm making my bed at 3 a.m. when I've already fallen asleep once. Like, I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm out.
I hear that.
Welcome. You are entering a strange realm. A realm of what-ifs. What if movies, television shows, and video games were better, worse, bizarrer, or downright different? What might they look like? Find out on today's episode of CineCasters.
Welcome to the CineCasters. This is the podcast where we watch shows and movies and talk about them, pitch them back to one another. I am Alyssa, and I'm here with the Janglez.
Hey.
And what are we talking about today?
Today we're going to do the first in a series on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 2014, I think.
I have to ask, why did you choose this?
Honestly, because I thought this movie, I'd never seen this movie before, because it looked like it was by Michael Bay.
Uh-huh.
And Michael Bay is not the director, but you could fool almost anyone with that because it feels so much like him. What's the term that I used? All spectacle, no substance.
That definitely, yeah, that's it.
And wow, I just wow. This was probably one of the worst movies we've ever done on CineMasters. I watched this one at 1.5 speed, almost 2. There were parts where I
should have done that. I don't know why I didn't do that. Oh, I forgot that was a thing. Oh, yeah. All of that time wasted.
Yeah. This was a movie where I don't think I would have been able to get through it if I watched it at regular speed. I watched it at 1.5 speed so that I didn't miss any plot points. But wow,
drags.
This movie drags, and I also am not really certain what the plot is or who the main character is.
Exactly. Is it the Turtles? Is it April?
I felt like it was supposed to be April at the beginning, but then for the most of the battle between Shredder, Splinter, and the Turtles, she's not really on screen or relevant.
Who's got any goals?
Yeah, what are goals? I mean, other than save Splinter, that's pretty goal-oriented.
Save Splinter, become a better journalist. Yeah. She doesn't even do that. She gets fired and she doesn't get rehired.
Yeah. I think my favorite plot hole is that they're going to use the mutagen to like heal Splinter, even though he already has the mutagen in his veins. That's why they were going to harvest it from him.
Yeah.
So I don't understand like how the mutagen, for me, the way they use it is basically like it's an antidote cure-all MacGuffin. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a word you can throw around to do whatever you want it to do.
Yes.
It's really, really irritating.
So I'm about to just like turn everyone away from me here, but I have never actually seen like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like not the show, not any of the movies.
The 80s or 90s cartoon was after or before your time.
Definitely before my time.
And the 2003, you may still have been a little young for. I watched the 2003 a lot when I was younger. It was really.
I think
good.
it's also that it wasn't really anything that my brother was interested in. So typically, when I was younger, anything my brother was interested in, I would also be interested in.
I think that just happens naturally with siblings.
That's why I'm into video games and motorcycles, right?
Yeah. Because I'm the same way. Me and my brother are very much both interested in dinosaurs and video games and other nerdy things to different degrees and to different extents. But yeah, I think so I do think there is something to be said about like what your siblings are into. That being said, I don't think this movie has anything to do with how good or nostalgic the original and the 2003 cartoons are. It's really irritating.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, even as someone who's never seen, like, I think I've caught like glimpses of some of the older shows. I don't know, But as someone who's never seen it, like, it didn't feel like it fit in with anything.
Also, the CGI characters just look atrocious.
It was terrifying. Also, the CGI, just because you were on the topic of it, there was at one point, a couple points actually, where I thought that like something was gonna like miss. Like at one point, April was falling off the building, and I thought that she was like, there was nothing around her. She was just going off the building.
Oh, because it's so green.
But then all of a sudden, she like warped over to the thing that was falling, and I was like, well, okay.
Yeah. There's just some weird like spatial orientations. This is a thing that I picked up from Nate, having spent so much time with him. These are, you start to pick up. He starts to talk about details I wouldn't have picked up on, and then I start picking up on them. But the sight lines.
Yeah.
The characters are like April, Megan Fox, her sightlines with where the turtles or Splinter are supposed to be are always off, always just slightly off. And it's
just
I never would have noticed it until Nate pointed that kind of stuff out to me. But now I see it everywhere. Like, I'm like, this is actually not good. And it's funny because, you know, there's lots of movies that use CGI, like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit. Lots of movies fall under that category, but they can get their sightlines right. I don't know. That was irritating.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I think
I'm just looking at my notes, and there's a lot of, like, almost every other note is just, like, this is really stupid. Like, the stupid coincidences between April and the turtles, but it doesn't actually really mean anything.
They try to make it like so like, oh my god, April saved them, and I'm like, but I don't care.
Yeah.
Also, Whoopi Goldberg, why is she in this movie?
Why not? And then the guy from Channel 6, April's friend, I don't remember his name.
His name is Vern in the show, but the actor is Will Arnett. Okay,
well, Vern was pretty stupid as well.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because Will Arnett is actually, I think, a really good actor.
He's cool. I like a lot of the stuff that he's done.
Yeah, he plays in BoJack Horseman, and some of the monologues that he has to give are just unreal. That's a great show.
Yeah. My favorite line here is just, what drugs were the writers on, and can I please get some?
Yeah, I would love some of these drugs.
Yeah.
There are some things that I did want to say that I did like about this movie.
Okay.
I did appreciate that the movie tried to have April as the main character and focus on her, and not have it be like April's a female and therefore female things. Like, the show was sort of just like, let me get there. I can see your face. What I mean by that is the movie is basically like, April's our main character. She has goals, sort of, not great ones, but she has goals, wants to get them. She's like a plucky reporter. Sure, fine, it works. And I appreciate that you do that, but then it undercuts that by having every male character on screen continuously talk about wanting to be with her, or her as an object of desire, right?
Yeah.
And
that got on my nerves real quick.
It's blatant and aggressive, and it's not welcome. I don't care for it.
It's not.
It's so irritating.
It's definitely not even needed. Like, it doesn't really help define anyone else's like point, like character traits.
Well,
like,
so I think,
you know, you can have one slimy character, and like, sure, slimy people exist in real life too, right? And like, sure, that's, you know, if he's constantly trying to make passes, then that's just his character. But why are like almost
everyone,
like 3 or 4 of these characters always like just really creepy?
The problem, and I have this, it's almost a meta casting. I think Megan Fox is actually a decent actor. I don't think she's amazing, but I think she's actually a decent actor. But I think she gets put into roles like this simply so the audience can have an object of desire, right? To use Laura Mulvey's terms, which I don't think is fair to her as an actress. I also think it undercuts April's character. Yeah. April now is seen as an object of desire. The other problem that I have with it is the person who does this the most, at least in my opinion, is Michelangelo, or Mikey. And he is my favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle out of the 4 of them. And in this movie, he is my least favorite. Because
I'm not surprised.
He's supposed to come across as like goofy and fun loving. He's the reckless one, just wants to have fun. You know what I mean? To me, that was always the most relatable. But in this one, he just comes across as creepy and misogynistic. It's not funny. It's inappropriate. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. People were like, "Oh, I didn't mean it. I'm not being serious. I'm the fun one." Okay, if that's your excuse, because it is, if that's your excuse for how you're going to treat and talk about women, then you're not the fun one. That's not an excuse. That is not okay. It's really irritating, especially for someone who's not. Michelangelo was always my favorite, and in this one, Donatello is my favorite.
Yeah,
except
they ruined him.
The reason Donatello is my favorite is because he has the least to do. He's the least interesting character of the Turtles in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, that's why he's the best one. He's not brooding and stupid like Raphael. He's not, I don't know, Leonardo is always, I never liked Leonardo. He's always like, I'm the leader and I have to be the best. Even at the beginning when they're like, oh, you'll use the katana. That's the most bestest weapon for all of the ninjas. And you're just like, yeah, because you love Leonardo the most. And the other, people, the other Ninja Turtles just get shafted.
Yeah.
It's
stupid.
It's stuff like that. Did anyone think about that? It's like, do you know the end of The Wizard of Oz?
Yes.
When Dorothy is like saying goodbye to everyone and she turns to the Scarecrow and is like, I'll miss you most of all.
Yeah. Like, oh, great.
Great. So like,
yeah.
Thanks.
You didn't really care as much about anyone else? Like just the Scarecrow?
Just the scare. Like, sure. I mean, imagine going to your friends like on the last day of high school and like just in front of all your other friends being like, I'll certainly miss you the most. I don't care about these other fucks. Yeah. Here, you can have the sword that is you can have the weapon that is the most bestest. All your brothers can have is a stick, and then your other brother can have 2 sticks tied together, and then your other brother can have a bunch of giant metal forks. Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, that's right. That is it.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta get back to likes because I feel like we're gonna keep shitting on this a little bit more after this.
Yeah.
I really liked the intro. But
it tells
the entire
a lot,
time I was thinking
unnecessary.
The entire time I was like, the impending doom of live action crime fighting turtles was like in my brain the whole time, where I'm like, this looks really cool. I have high hopes, but I also really don't.
I really liked the fact that April constantly wears like a yellow leather coat.
Yep.
Because in the original series, April was known for wearing this yellow jumpsuit, and it looks kind of like in the original animated, it looks tacky. So I like that they were like, hey, let's make April stylish by making her wear this like leather jacket, but we'll make it like this faded yellow leather, which looks really vibrant and bright. So she pops on TV. It gives her or on the TV when you're watching her, it gives her this sort of like unique characteristic as a character, and it's a really neat throwback to be like, April wears yellow. And I was like, that's an inspired bit of costume design, to be like, let's take this piece of iconic Turtles costume and we'll update it so that it doesn't seem out of place that she's just running around in a yellow jumpsuit, but it's still like, this can be real, this can be April, and it can be immediately identifiable who she is based on this in any scene, or if you're just tuning in. That's smart. Yep. That's the smartest thing in this movie. Let's carry on with likes, though. Give me another like.
Most rats don't have black nails. I am with Splinter.
Uh-huh.
I just imagined him sitting there with like his like long beard, just like painting his nails.
Yeah. I hate the way Splinter looks in this.
He looked terrifying, but the whole time I was like, yes.
he to me, he was the most uncanny.
Yeah, he was really scary.
Like the turtles sort of look like lumps of clay to me.
Yeah.
But Splinter looks like this weird, uncanny human rat hybrid. And if I said that to you, like imagine a pink, fleshy, hairless, like rat man.
Yeah.
You'd be like, that's disgusting.
That's kind of really scary.
Yeah, a lot of people already find hairless rats really, really uncomfortable. So
they're a little strange. I like them. I don't know if I'd ever have one.
Rats are highly intelligent.
They're very smart
and
little
super
dudes.
Cute.
I love them.
But I don't want to see one fused with a human.
Yeah, no, thank you. Okay, one more good one. the evil samurai Iron Man was like so cool.
I'm
sitting here, I'm rooting for the evil guy because I think he's like just fucking rocking it.
I loved the Shredder's design in this. It looks so cool.
It was so cool.
Like all these like knives coming out of every place. It's a really, really cool design. It's just dumb.
It's so stupid. But like if we were to take his character design and like his weapons and everything and put him in the Marvel universe, like he'd fit in.
Oh, he would fit in. Like if
like
you,
110%.
If you can have Hawkeye shooting 12 arrows at a bunch of aliens, then you can have you know, someone like the Shredder. And there's like the Silver Samurai and other different things, but like
but I liked like his knives that were on his arms that like came back, and that was really cool.
Very, very cool. He looks like it should be like an Iron Man villain, like a kind of like alternate history Japanese version of like the Ironmonger or another, you know, Iron Man villain. Yeah. Very, very cool. But it just doesn't work for this because it's dumb. It's like also the entire plot of this movie is dumb. And
we only get the evil like the awesome like outfit and the fight scene for the last like 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, and when they steal when he fights and kidnaps Splinter.
True, but even then that's not very much.
I think my biggest problem with the Shredder isn't the suit and how dumb it is, because it is kind of dumb even if it looks cool. My problem is that Shredder doesn't really have any motivation. All the motivation for that character comes from Sax. I think that's the character's name. Mm-hmm. It comes from Sax, and I actually thought they were going to make Sax the Shredder. And then they were just like, nah, we're going to do this weird Japanese history thing.
What was Sax's first name?
Eric?
Something like that, I think. Okay, because every time that I heard like Sax, I was like, don't be doing my boy Oliver Sax dirty.
Oh, yeah,
here.
Oliver Sax is wonderful musicologist and psychologist. But no, Eric Sax, I found him like as a more plausible villain, even though he was very like, without actually doing it, it was very like chin stroke, maniacal laugh. I've been the villain all along, and we're going to poison the city and use the mutagen as an antidote. Oh, James Bond, except stupider. Yeah, that's the stupidest plot.
I don't think he really thought it through though, where the mutagen, which was supposed to be the antidote, would probably like destroy everyone else in the same, like it would just mutate everyone in the same way that it mutated the turtles and the rat.
I don't understand. Like I don't think it's not a good system. It doesn't work. It's not.
I thought he was a scientist. Shouldn't he be like, he's like, oh, you know, it's no problem. The mutagen is just, you know, it's a go.
It's just not a good plot.
Despite the fact that it's just so bad.
It's not a good plot. Like if I was a supervillain, I wouldn't do that. And if I was a writer, I wouldn't write a supervillain who was going to do that.
Yeah.
It's not a good plot. And it sucks because I know they were trying to keep the mutagen central to the plot, but I think there was a bunch of different ways that they could have done that. Ugh. Mm-hmm. I think my other biggest problem with this movie is that the four turtles individually, we don't spend enough time with them, despite the fact that I thought having April as more of a central character was a really neat idea and a great way to introduce the movie. I actually thought that if you'd gotten rid of that sort of prologue at the beginning where the Splinter explains the turtles and what they are and what they do, if we just started out with April at the beginning doing the reporter stuff, I think it would have been immediately obvious to anyone who's familiar with the Ninja Turtles canon who this was, and just keep her as your main character. That to me makes a lot more sense. But yeah, I don't know. The turtles as characters, because they sort of take over once we are introduced to them. We don't spend enough time with them to get to know their individual personalities and their each individual goals. Mm-hmm. The only one who really has an arc is Raphael, and it's pretty sad.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to go out on my own. Except I don't actually want to go out on my own. I love you all like brothers. Which, like, sure, heartfelt.
That speech was just ridiculous.
But yeah, it's also just like, cool. Cool, bro. I don't care because we didn't spend any time with this.
Yeah.
And then lastly, we have to talk about the scene. Do you know which scene I'm talking about?
I don't know.
Right before the final battle, the four turtle brothers get on the elevator.
Yeah.
And then they start to beatbox.
Yeah.
And freestyle rap. With the ping of the elevator. And the...
I think I blocked that from my memory because I was just like, this, what?
Yeah. I don't normally cringe during movies, and I like cheesiness. But the fact that this movie takes itself so seriously and then puts something like that in there, I was like, oh my God, they're actually doing this. Like, this is actually happening. It makes sense for Mikey to do something like that. I just don't see Donatello, Raph, and especially Leonardo doing something like that. It doesn't fit their characters. I that part in particular, I was just like, oh my God, that's just happened. The most,
yeah, because that whole time, and then like something about like the, fuck, you're gonna hate me for asking this. Who was the one with the red?
Raphael.
That was Raphael. Yeah. He said something about like, oh, you remember that thing that I told you never to say again?
Yeah,
it was cowabunga.
Well, it's because cowabunga is their catchphrase.
Yeah, so it's like he's the type who's just like, the word cowabunga apparently got on his nerves enough that he was like, you're not allowed saying it anymore. But he'll like sit there and rap along or whatever he did. It's so like, it just didn't fit any of them.
This movie takes itself too seriously so that when stuff like that happens, it feels cringeworthy instead of like appropriate. Like, as much as I don't know how well they've aged because I haven't seen them in a long time, but like the 80s and 90s Ninja Turtles movies, the live action ones where it's dudes wearing like suits, do you know the ones I'm talking about?
I know of them.
Yeah, those I think are better movies, even though they're like super cheesy, because they know the turtles don't look realistic. They look like cartoon versions, and everyone's wearing like puppet makeup and stuff. But it kind of works.
Yeah.
I think the fact that you as a viewer who never watched the Ninja Turtles and can't tell them apart after watching this movie speaks to how poorly done this movie is. That's nothing about you. That's everything about how poorly done this movie is. You shouldn't have to come into a movie with outside knowledge if that movie isn't a sequel. And even good sequels, if you're really good about it, can lead you through without having seen the one before them.
Yeah.
Unless it's like The Lord of the Rings, which is intended to be watched as like one epic movie in 3 parts.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to come into a movie with prior knowledge.
Yeah. So, I mean, we already talked about Marvel a little teeny bit today, but like Marvel, you can just hop into the Marvel movies and...
The only ones you can't do that with, I would argue, are the Avengers Endgame and Infinity War.
Yeah, no spoilers because I haven't
You
seen...
basically know the broader strokes, but the only reason you can't do that is because they have a new main character for those movies, particularly in Infinity War. There's a new main character, so when other characters show up, you're sort of expected to know what their role is and how they fit into the story.
Everything before that, because they had them in phases. I think like phase 1 and phase 2 were easy. You could just hop right in and just
you can still do that with most of the movies. It's just not those ones, not those 2 in particular. Endgame and Infinity War. Yeah.
So like the fact that this, which is technically a standalone film, I didn't feel the same way.
Yeah.
It was just,
They needed to do much more to define the brothers outside of just color.
Yeah, because I could tell, like, the one in purple was the nerd.
Because he wears glasses.
The one in orange
That's just essentializing.
Was the village idiot. Yeah. But then the other 2, I actually couldn't really tell them apart.
Donatello's the leader, and Raphael thinks he's better than everyone else. That's basically... He's the angry one.
They were interchangeable for me.
Raphael is the angry one, hence red. Donatello is the less angry one. I don't know. It's not great. It's just, and there's, I feel like as characters they're really well defined in the TV show. At least the 2003 TV show did a really, really good job with them. I really enjoyed it. I don't know, man. I'm trying to go through my list. Like, Oh, did you know that Daredevil and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have a lot in common in terms of their story arcs? Like, sorry, let me rephrase that. The origin of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is heavily, not from the movie, but from the TV show and the comics, is heavily implied to be the same incident where Daredevil was blinded.
Oh.
So in the original TV show...
Clearly not in this movie.
No. In the original comics, there's a crash and there's 4 turtles and a rat that get splashed with chemicals. And that's what gives them their powers. In Daredevil, there's a car accident where a chemical splashes on his eyes. And if you see the original way that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are drawn, it's heavily implied that it's the same car crash as where Daredevil got his powers.
Yeah.
So it's pretty, I think that's pretty interesting.
That's fun.
But despite that, they've never crossed over. But yeah, the dude who created the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a big Daredevil fan. That's why the villain in one of the big villains that Daredevil fights is called the Hand. And in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they're called the Foot. That's exactly right. That's why.
I was watching this and I was like, who was in charge of naming this? Me?
Was
it me?
But that's why they're called the Foot, because it's the opposite of the Hand. Because in Daredevil, the Hand is called the Hand because they're supposed to be like, they have the world at their grips, and it's also supposed to be like each part is or each member of the Hand's High Council or whatever is responsible for one of the major continents. So it winds up being, or subcontinents. So it winds up being Europe, Africa, India, China, Japan. Yeah. And that's why they're called the Hand, because they like grasp the world, and there's 5 lead members. So.
Oh, see, I was thinking it might be something like the Hand working in the shadow.
That too. That too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then they were just like, oh, it's the Foot. Because for the longest time, I had never knew why they were called the Foot Clan. Because it didn't make sense to me.
It just sounds so weird.
Why are they the Foot? It's because of the Hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's neat. That's fun little
trivia. Yeah. Too bad they didn't do anything with that in this movie. Yeah. Splinter looks terrible. Eye lines are always off. The fact that April was part of their origin story, that's dumb.
Yeah, it was like this weird coincidence that they never did anything with.
No, it's great, cool. Mutagen is just a MacGuffin.
At what point does a live action movie with animals fighting a mechanical samurai become not live action?
Yeah.
Not mechanical samurai, but you know what
I know, it's pretty mechanical. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just going through okay, so when they're on the top of the building fighting the Shredder, how are there no helicopters with cameras being like, all of this shit is going down on the top of this building? Who the fuck are these 3 turtles? Because the implication at the end is that they just go back to being in hiding. The face you're giving me is like...
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Like, how is there no publicity? The fucking antenna tower
like a thing
drops.
That always happens in most superhero movies is like, you've got the helicopters flying around. And you hear like... Even if it's not news helicopters, at least like military helicopters.
Yeah, but there's no news helicopter. There's nothing, a drone even, just being like filming, being like 4 turtle-shaped human beings are fighting this Iron Man knockoff. And but at the end, there's sort of the implication is like, oh, we're back in hiding in the turtle mobile. Nobody will spot us, and we're so ninja. And you're just like, none of that was ninja. How did nobody notice? What the fuck? Huge plot hole. Yeah. Especially because April's a reporter. And we spend so much time talking about news in the city. Ugh.
Yeah. The reporter trope is getting so old at this point. I think we've seen it like 1,000 times.
Yeah. None of April being like the plucky reporter who wants to report on real news. That's a tired story. We didn't need it. It was nice to see April be the main character for however brief that was. And for however poorly that was done. Yeah. Well, you're really excited about your pitch.
I am. I'm very excited. It's like a completely whole new thing.
Oh, so is mine. So... But I think I should go first because mine's pretty normal.
Okay.
If you're cool with that.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. So my movie starts with April, who's a reporter for the Channel 6 News, and she does well, but she wants to do more like investigative reporting. And she's basically told, like, everyone tells her, like, you'll get there, but you have to put the time in. Like, you can be on the investigative team, you can do that kind of journalism, but you have to put the time in and do the small stuff just like everyone else. Like, that's how this works. Like, you're still young. You're, like, barely 23, just out of college. Like, put the time in. It'll happen. But April's like, it's not fast enough. Like, I want to be... And I want to be, like, this awesome investigative journalist and do all this kinds of stuff. And she's already got some ideas of things she wants to investigate. But the other problem is that, like a lot of news networks, people are getting their news from the internet, not from news channels anymore. So through a conversation with her cameraman, Vern, we discovered that April has a hunch on some pretty shady things happening at Saks Industries and wants to investigate. But Vern tells her, he's like, you'll get the opportunity to put that in. You can do that in time. But we've got to go film this segment on, it's a feel-good segment. I don't care what it is. Yep. And April's like, oh, fine. And they film it, but then she's like, we'll get the rest of it tomorrow morning because there's something I want to go to see. So, you know, that night, April goes to see where she went. Is she goes to the docks and looks into shipments coming in for Saks Industries. But while she's there, she sees another company's merchandise. Looks like it's being accosted and stolen by some dudes wearing, like, ninja outfits. And she's like, oh, what the fuck? And pulls her phone out. She starts filming, but then 4 vigilantes show up and basically put a stop to the dudes in black. And April has it all on her phone, and she's like, oh, this is good. Like, some shit's going down here. So the dudes in black retreat, but as they're retreating, they pass by April's hiding spot and notice her and see that she was filming. And they can't let it get out, so they basically, like, they're going to kidnap her. And April manages to scream before they can get too far, and the 4 vigilantes show up, and they do manage to rescue her. They turn out to be the 4 turtles named Raphael, Michelangelo, Donatello, and Leonardo. And they explain that they've been fighting with these dudes in black ninja get-ups for months, and they're somehow involved with Saks Industries, but we don't know how. And they call themselves the Foot, or at least that's what we've been calling them. Yeah. So April's like, well, this gets me interesting. You say they're involved with Saks Industries. Like, that's sort of what I was looking into. So the turtles want her to delete the footage because they also don't want anyone to know that they're out there, even though they're like, yeah, having proof of the foot is great, but we can't let anyone know we're here. It just doesn't work for us. But April is like, okay, I'll make you a deal. I'll delete the video if you can help me figure out where the Foot clan moved the stolen material to. And then she'll delete. So the 5 of them find the stolen goods and see the materials have been moved to a Saks warehouse on the docks. So from whatever company they were moved to the Saks warehouse. And April deletes the video now that she has proof of the stolen goods. So by morning, April shows up. It's morning by then. She shows up a little late for work, and her boss asks her why she hasn't finished the segment she was supposed to. She said she was going to do it the next morning, but she's been out all night.
Right.
So April instead is like, check this out. And it presents the evidence of Saks Industry. And her boss is like, okay, cool. You have a hunch here that might pay off, but you still didn't do your job. Like, I still asked you to go cover this and you didn't do it. So it's great you want to be a reporter, but you still have to do the job I give you. Right? Like, I can't report this yet because it's not been validated. We haven't asked Saks Industries to reply. We haven't looked into the evidence you've even given us. Like this is a good, solid hunch. Something's going on here. But I still have airtime I need to fill. You got to do... So April's boss is basically like, I'm going to look into this for a little bit. You have first dibs if the story works out. But you got to go do your job. So April is like, fine. But she's not fine with it. She instead is excited and thinks that if the turtles helped her once, they might be able to find more info on the Foot clan and how they're connected to Saks. Because they've been fighting the Foot for weeks, according to them. So April remembers this, saying that they live underground, and she goes to an abandoned subway tunnel, and New York is like full of them, and accidentally runs into Michelangelo while he's skateboarding in the tunnels. He doesn't see her, and then follows him home. And he doesn't notice because he's too busy thinking he's like in the shadows. And then she's like, gets to their place and is like, oh, hey, like I just followed you home. And they freak out because they're like, what happens if Splinter finds out that a human is here and that we contacted you and that you're not like freaking out about us? And Splinter already finds out and then scolds them, and he like forces them to do, I don't know, like push-ups or handstands. So they're like struggling to do this, whatever it is that Splinter forces them to do, while Splinter is having like a really, really nice conversation and serves tea to April. And the two of them are just like talking. I just thought that would be super funny to see the brothers like being scolded while April and Splinter sit down and have tea and talk, like, and the brothers are in the background. So he treats April kindly and they sit and talk, and she basically explains what happens. And he explains that the turtles were test animals for a corporation called TSRI. I think that's the name of the original company from the show. I can't remember. It's something like that. But and they were working on genetically modifying the genes of animals. And Splinter and the turtles were the latest in a long list of test subjects, including like rabbits and rats and lots of other things. But when the company was bought out, a lot of the animals began dying because the scientists accelerated tests and were doing more dangerous things, until finally the turtles and Splinter began to transform, and Splinter escaped and took the turtles with him. In the sewers, he read books and taught them discipline as his intelligence grew. He read books on lots of different things and learned discipline based on martial arts, and he named the 4 of them after 4 Renaissance painters after a book that he found on Renaissance painters. That's why their names are all Renaissance painters. April is flabbergasted because her father used to work for TSRI, and when the company was bought out by Saks, her father's death had something fishy to do with like that merger and what took over. So that's why she's been looking into Saks this whole time. But she has no idea like what Saks did or any of the science experimenty stuff. So, but she's like, oh, this, if we can prove, like, cause I can't use you as proof cause I promised the brothers I wouldn't, but if we can prove that they were messing with genetics, like of animals and testing on them, that's super illegal. We could take them down. Are you? And however, Splinter warns that they need to be cautious because the foot is no joke. The reason Splinter chose martial arts was because, like, the foot have been around forever. They've just been more active, and the Foot Clans seem to have like been sent to search for them. So Splinter like hid the turtles and himself and chose to teach them martial arts because that's what the Foot were already using. So he was like, well, we need to defend ourselves. And so that's why it wasn't just like, oh, I needed a form of discipline. It worked, but he was like, I needed a way to like defend ourselves from the Foot. So who have now become way more active and are not just searching for the turtles and Splinter, but like doing stuff related to Saks. So the turtles agree to stake the place out and see what they can find. And once again, April goes back to work and she's late and with nothing to show for it. And her boss basically is like, that's twice now. I'm going to have to fire you. But it also turns out that I did some digging to find out what you found about the goods being stolen. And I found no paper trail around where Saks, like the goods were stolen. Turns out like somehow, if you're saying they're stolen, I believe you. But somehow the stolen goods were given legitimate paperwork. And Eric Saks found out that somebody was sniffing up the wrong tree, and he actually owns Channel 6 News. And so he basically said, fire the reporter or I'm pulling funding. And so he asked, April's boss has to fire April. But her boss basically says, people only react like that when they're scared of something. So even though you're not an employed reporter, you're on to something here. Like, don't give it up. But unfortunately, you just can't work here anymore because I just can't risk pulling funding. But he still like has some integrity. Have you watched Daredevil?
Yes.
Okay.
The first season.
Yeah, and basically, have you met Ellis yet? He's not very prominent in the first season. I'm not talking about... Ellis is the editor-in-chief at the newspaper. He's not Ben Ulrich, but Ben Ulrich's boss. Yeah. That's who I based this character off of, because I was just like, Daredevil and TMNT are the same place.
Actually, I think I've seen the second season as
well. He's pretty prominent in the second season, and then the third.
Yeah.
So the turtles... Sorry, where am I? April understands and goes to meet with the turtles, but doesn't realize she's being followed, and leads the Foot right to the turtles, who then fight it off. The turtles win and save April, but with the new information about the turtles being out in the open, Saks uses Channel 6 News to broadcast the footage, and now the turtles are basically like branding them as some kind of vigilante, weird, mutated thing, and everyone in the city's trying to get at them. So the turtles are like, we should lie low. We should just stay till this blows over, and Master Splinter thinks that the time for hiding is over. He's like, actually, I know I always told you to stay, you should hide, but I actually think this is the time to not hide. We should take the fight to the Foot. and we should meet Sax. Now that he knows the gene altering thing worked, we're in the most amount of danger.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And we think basically they find out that Sax has revived the gene altering thing, and the turtles go to the Sax building, and they can go up the thing and have this fight, but it's in a lab, and they can easily beat Sax because he's like an older dude, but he injects himself with the mutagen and turns into this like rabbit dude, like half rabbit.
Okay.
Because I don't know, it just seemed like that would be visually cool, and start like he's like fighting back now that he has like awesome. But they finally, like, the four of them work together and finally manage to defeat him. And he's like, you don't get it. Like, just because I'm gone doesn't mean the technology is gone. Like, somebody else will find it. My higher-ups will find it, and they'll use it. And they probably already have it. And the building collapses, and so they're like, the mutagen must have been not dealt with, and we're all fine. And April got the whole thing on her phone and uses the news website to report what Sax Industry was doing. And everything's all happy-go-lucky there. But at the very end, we see a dude sitting at a table, and he takes the mutagen, and we see somebody come up to him and like present the mutagen to him and call him Master Shredder. And he takes the mutagen. But we don't see how he transforms.
Okay.
And that's my setup for the sequel.
I like that. I like that you don't really change like the overall plot. You just fix a lot of stuff.
I do change most of the plot. Basically, April is now an actual character.
Yeah.
I mean,
like, you still have like the thing with the mutagen,
Yeah.
but it's less of a MacGuffin and more of like an actual like plot device.
Yeah. And it actually like changes people.
Yeah. And it's not this like antidote that doesn't actually like, we don't know what it's supposed to heal.
Yeah.
Like,
instead it's more like it will mutate you. It'll make you stronger like it does with Sax, but it will also change you.
yeah.
All right, hit me with yours. You were so excited. I don't think I've ever seen you more excited about a pitch.
Get the tissues out.
Oh God.
Okay. So I like completely changed this. I don't know if any of it's gonna line up with any of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles kind of lore, but I don't care.
That's not the point. The point is to watch a movie and then pitch it.
Yeah. I also can't take 100% of the credit for this one because I was talking with Ryan about it because I'm like, I have no idea.
For those who don't know,
what
Ryan
to
is
do.
Alyssa's significant other.
Yes. So
otherwise people are
I'm
gonna be
like,
like, who the
I have
fuck's
no
Ryan?
idea what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's Ryan? So I'm like, I was like panicking this morning. I was like, I still don't have an idea for this. And he's just like, what is it? Tell me about the movie. So I explained the general premise and he's like, okay, make them turtles. And I was like, they are turtles. He's like, no, make them real turtles. And I was like,
They are real turtles, aren't they?
no. But then that got me cascading and it got me a really cool idea.
Okay,
so here we go.
So it's still your idea. He just helped with the impetus.
It's still, I told him, I was like,
Yeah.
you helped me a lot with just giving me that spark.
All right, here, do it.
So here we go. We start off with the classic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated intro. I don't really care which one. I didn't realize there were two.
Oh, there's more than that.
For two shows.
There's like four.
Okay, great. Good to know. Well, you can choose whichever one's your favorite and put it in your brain, okay?
Ooh,
So we
it's
start
like a
with that.
choose your own adventure. Sorry,
Kind
I'll
of.
stop interrupting.
So we start with that, and then we slowly pan out from the TV to see a young girl hugging a turtle stuffed animal and singing along. Yes. So
Holy
we
shit,
see
this is gonna
her
get
dad
really
in the
sad,
background.
isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
So we start... we see her dad in the background sneaking a present down the stairs, and when the TV cuts to commercial, we all know it's April, but he calls to her and is just like, April, come on, get your gift, because it's her birthday. So inside it are two turtles. He explains that they're from his lab and that they can't be adopted out, so the best option was to bring them home so that he and April could care for them. She's obviously stoked and immediately names them after her favorite characters, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We also find out through this that she also has a rat
Aw.
who is also named after Master Splinter. Who was in the rat was also one of her dad's ex
Yeah.
lab animals. So we get a cute little introduction from April saying like, Master Splinter, these are your new family members. We got Leonardo, Raphael, Donatello, Michelangelo, and this is Master Splinter, and you guys are gonna have a great time here. And then April and her dad get ready to leave for school. Or not school. I don't really know what, they just have to go out, I guess. Birthday party things. And April tells them to get to know each other while she's gone. So they close the door and they're gone, and we get to see like Master Splinter telling the turtles about how it is to live here with April and her dad, and how sometimes she seems sad, but it's because she carries the great burden of telling the future. She's told prophecies of a shredder who will try and take over the world, and the turtles will learn and the turtles who will learn martial arts to take Shredder down. And clearly her prophecies are correct, because now there are 2 or 4 turtles right here in front of Splinter.
Oh, wow.
So, I think obviously the next thing would be like a little training montage of like, during the day they're just turtles and a rat, but during the night they're all like practicing with like little martini swords or something.
Oh, that's cute.
So one day before going to bed, April is playing with Master Splinter and talking with the turtles, and she says, with a worried look on her face, that a cat will be coming to the house tomorrow for a while, and that she's worried it'll be too much for the 5 of you, being the turtles and the rat, and that she'll try and keep it busy when she can. In the background, April's dad calls out saying, your mom knows we have Master Splinter here. You can tell her no if you're that worried. But April looks more sad when he says that, and then he also adds, besides, I don't want it shredding up the new couch.
Dun, dun, dun.
So with that, Master Splinter and the turtles give each other like a knowing look, and when April heads upstairs for bed, they have a meeting. They're like, your training is not yet complete, but I suppose the enemy should not be expected to wait until we're ready. So the turtles prepare themselves and get ready for the cat's arrival. After school the next day, April comes home with a woman. She's got the carrier with her. They let the cat out, and it immediately kind of makes itself at home. April obviously knows the cat, and the cat has maybe been here before. And the woman gives April a big hug and tells her how much she appreciates April looking after the cat while the honeymoon is on. And then April says something about seeing her at the wedding tomorrow. So the woman leaves, and April sits down and starts crying. Master Splinter makes a noise in his cage to get her attention, but it also gets the cat's attention as well. And so April, still teary-eyed, has to like pry the cat away from Master Splinter's cage and says like, come on, you can sit with me while I read my new comics. So once April and the cat are upstairs, the turtles are all, did you see how she valiantly fought the cat to save Master Splinter? And he's like, yes, she is much stronger than any of us, but she cannot hold back Shredder all the time. We must prepare ourselves for his next attack.
I love how cheesy it is, but it's still like so heartwarming.
So good. So night rolls around, and then the next day it's the weekend. So April and her father are both home in the morning. The cat is leaving Master Splinter and the turtles alone for the most part, but April's father is helping, April's father is helping her get ready for some sort of special event. The turtles say something about how beautiful April is in her dress. Obviously, like, April can't hear this. It's just between the animals, right? And Master Splinter agrees, but he says, like, oh, she seems kind of sad still. Like, I don't know what it is. So her father, too, seems sad, but the two of them don't really talk about it or mention what's bothering them, and instead they try to laugh about other things. So finally, her dad is like, oh, Steph is supposed to come get you any moment now. She's been messaging me all morning to make sure I've got you ready on time. April jokes about how all the bridesmaids seem uptight, and her dad says something about how Steph was really uptight at his wedding, too. They both fall silent, and then his phone rings. So he says something about work calling on the weekend, but then takes the call and walks away. April tells the turtles and Master Splinter that she'll be back tonight and not to worry about her and not to let the cat bother them too much. And then the doorbell rings and a woman, different one from last time, this one is Steph, opens the door. So she says something about like, oh, do a spin for Auntie Steph. You look so beautiful like your mother, and you should see your mother right now. Her dress is beautiful, blah, 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 blah. So her dad gives April a kiss and a hug and sends her off with Steph. So then her dad, watching April go, then puts on his or after watching April go, puts on his own jacket and shoes and heads out to work. So this is where the fight between Shredder and the turtles would happen. Obviously it would happen because Shredder is interested in Splinter, and maybe there can be a whole dialogue between the cat and the rat and the turtles.
Oh, I would play that for cheese. It'd be so fun.
I have no idea how I would do it, but I know that somehow they would all get out of the cage or the aquariums and whatnot.
Have you seen Avatar: The Last Airbender?
The live action one?
No, the
no.
TV. Okay, in the TV series, there's two characters named Appa and Momo, and they don't talk. They're one of them's a flying bison, and the other one's a lemur. Flying lemur. Yep. And there's a one episode where Aang is so tired that he can't sleep. He can't fall asleep because he keeps having bad dreams. So he starts like hallucinating, and he hallucinates his two pets, Appa and Momo, as like samurai.
Yeah.
So the way I would do this is anytime that April's in the room, they're just regular turtles and a rat. But when April's not around, they see themselves as like more anthropomorphized. It's like they see themselves as ninja, and then I would literally have even the cat, like the Shredder, stand on two feet, like anthropomorphized, and like have like metal claws and stuff, and the turtles are all like decked out in their ninja gear because that's the way they see themselves, or possibly just the way April sees them when she's not there. Like it's up to interpretation, but that's the way that I would do it. I would play it like it's not like turtles doing ninja moves. I would play it like they're just turtles, but when April's not around, they're like ninja turtles.
I was also kind of thinking of like Bolt as well when I was writing it.
Yeah,
so maybe not quite the same level, but there's still that like, oh, it's dog, but the dog thinks that he's a superhero.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyways, the fight would happen, and I didn't really have any good methods of explaining this, but just at some point, like it would look like there's like Shredder is gonna win, but then the turtles like somehow turn the tide, because they can't let April down. And before we see the rest of the fight, April and her dad come home together. So they see that the cage and the aquarium are both open, and they start panicking. But eventually they find Shredder with his hackles up, hissing at the turtles who are protecting Splinter. And April and her dad break up the fight and put the cat in the carrier and the other animals to their respective homes. And then April just kind of like starts crying. And her dad's like, honey, I know that was stressful, but I checked them all over. They're okay, because he's a biologist, remember? And she's just like, I know, but I just can't handle it after a day like today. And her dad's like, what? You told me you had fun at the party tonight. And she's like, I didn't want to worry you. And then they hug and make up, and he's like, it's been stressful on me too. Sorry for not noticing the pressure you were under. Let's do what we used to do in the old house. And then the next scene is just the turtles and Splinter watching the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles show, while April and her dad are watching while like huddled under a blanket for it. And then the post-credits scene.
That's so cute.
The post-credits scene is when April's mom comes to pick up the cat. And the cat on the way out the door is like giving this really like epic speech, and like only Splinter and the turtles like understand, but we get like the occasional cut into like
where
the human's vision, where it's just like angry cat yowling, and then like a to be continued screen.
Ooh. Actually,
I don't know how I'm gonna carry up after this, but yeah.
Well, you'll get some ideas hopefully from the next movie, Out of the Shadows. Hopefully. I think that might be your best pitch.
I think it's my best pitch.
It's like so good. It's so unique. Actually, I mean, when you were pitched it to me, I was just like, hang on a second, are you just pitching me Toy Story with Ninja Turtles?
I was thinking about Toy Story as well while I was doing it, but I was like, oh, but I don't like everyone that we watched. Like, we haven't done Toy Story as a CineCasters episode, but like Bolt and a couple of the other ones that we've watched, all of them have the main characters leave the house and try to get back home.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, I was like, I almost feel like that's April's thing. She can still do that. She leaves the house. She goes to her mother's wedding.
Yeah.
And then she comes back home. But like the other main characters are busy having their own battle at home as well.
Well, that's the other thing that I really liked is that unlike Toy Story, where we sort of have the humans as background characters and the toys take prominence, you've made it so like April is still very much a part of the story. She's just sort of like the B plot to the Turtles' A plot.
Yeah.
Like it's about the turtles. I really like that. I think that's just a really, really interesting and different way of approaching the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Far better than this movie. Far better than even my pitch. That's really inspired. I would watch that. I think that would be really, really fun. That's awesome.
I don't know if it could be done live action, but that was my idea.
I don't even know what else to say. That's just like an awesome pitch, man. You won this week. No, it's not a competition.
I need some filmmakers to hit me up and we'll make this.
Oh, fuck. It's a really, really neat idea for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Very, very different. I'm not sure that every TMNT fan would like it, but
probably
as
not.
a concept, it's solid. So.
But I feel like there would still be plenty of opportunities for the Turtles' personalities to come through. Yeah. Especially like in the training and in the battles, and any time that they notice like, oh, April seems down today.
Yeah. Well, what I also like about it is that this takes place in a world where the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is both a comic, and then these 4 or 5 characters think that they are the Ninja Turtles because that's what April tells them they are.
Yeah. And so they're like, oh, she tells us our prophecies of what's going to happen. And we got the turtles, and now Shredder came and we fought him off.
But of course, the only reason she has them is because her dad is like, well, she likes these characters, Teenage right? Yeah.
Yeah. And we just happen to have these animals at the lab or something like that.
I think that's a really, really interesting idea. Like, it takes place in the universe, and these are not the canonical turtles, but at the same time, this is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. It's really clever.
I think it's a good hybrid of Toy Story and Bolt.
Yeah, it's like because Buzz Lightyear thinks he's an actual not toy, but these turtles know that they're pets. They just see the world differently from the way that we do. Excellently done. I have nothing else to say. Do you have anything else to say about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? I wanted to watch that version more than I want to watch the sequel.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
I got to figure out what drugs they were on for the next movie.
Yeah. So stay tuned for the next episode of our Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series. We'll only be doing one more episode because neither of us can handle doing a third unless we're like both have a revelation between now and after the second one. I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't know if I will.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But we will be following up this movie with a sequel based on the same premises and pitches that we just wrote, so tune in for that. And where can people find you?
You can find me at twitch.tv/AlyssaLou with 3 O's, and you can find my creative stuff at Alyssa Rose Handmade on Instagram.
You can find our band Robot Philosopher anywhere you listen to dope music. You can check out our other channel for more scripted content called the CineCasters Ultimate Timeline, and you can always watch more dope videos right here on the CineCasters. We just hang out and talk and pitch movies. Yeah. Thanks for chilling.
It's fun. Bye.